What do we want around here? So for this week's Music Monday, I want to talk about Slipknot. That's right, Slipknot. Of course, Slipknot is one of those bands that's not really everybody's cup of tea, per se. It's my understanding they got started back in the 90s, 95, or in Iowa, of all places. And so first time I heard Slipknot, I was still in high school. In fact, majority of the bands that I still listen to today, I discovered while I was still in high school. And I may go figure, I guess the whole teenage angst period and whatnot. And I remember listening to their debut album, and I guess because I think they recorded like a couple demos, and then I remember something about them self-releasing their first album, and then eventually they got picked up by Roadrunner Records, and so their first debut album, official full-length debut album, that was mass-produced and released to the public, was on Roadrunner Records, and that was the one that I first listened to. But actually, I borrowed a copy. I borrowed a copy from a friend of mine, and then I was able to convince my dad to buy me my own copy. And my dad was pretty cool while I was growing up. He allowed me to listen to so many different bands, and despite there being like parental warning stickers on a lot of the metal albums that I listened to, because he kind of grew up in the same way. Like, he was also, I guess, not really. He's never been a fan of like heavy metal in general, but he grew up with like basic classic rock stuff, and he also played in a couple of bands when he was a teenager too. So he's kind of always understood like my passion for music and my need to explore, or rather, I guess, listen to many different bands, especially while I was growing up and while I was a teenager. So, yeah. And now, of course, I've only seen Slipknot in concert once, and I remember it's a pretty interesting show. Very energetic. Because there was a total of 9 guys in the band, and just for me, I remember like first time seeing them, it was very unique, very different, and weird and cool and awesome, and I just remember just the whole time being in awe of how energetic they were, and not only that, but just how awesome their songs were, like heavy but also melodic, and and then not to mention like the different things they did on stage. And at one point, their DJ, who I want to say his name is Sid something, he at one point he lit himself on fire, but it was really fast. It was like, I think maybe for a total of 10 seconds or something. And I think he was also wearing some kind of like fire retardant suit or something like that. So, yeah, because it was like, even though like, because because they got 2 guitar players, they got a drummer, and then they also have 2 extra percussionists who are also, essentially they have like 3 drummers. And then they also got a DJ guy in the end, of course a bass player, and then a sample guy who, I guess it's fair to say he's like the most mysterious member of the band. But yeah, and of course I know now, like since then, their lineup has changed. They no longer have their original drummer. The original drummer was Joey Jordison, and man, that guy is just. I remember that's another thing too. I remember when I saw him in concert, and he was just all over the place with the drums, and he did a couple of drum solos, and he's an insane drummer. It's just, he makes it look so effortless and so awesome. It just, yeah, it's, it's like a lot of people like to argue whether or not talent actually exists, whether or not people actually do have natural talent or not. And I tend to believe that, I think that's true, that because there's some people that they can practice an instrument like over and over and over, and for like even decades at a time. But then it doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna be proficient at it, or even like be able to play in the same manner that a lot of other musicians play, like the same way, or it's, I don't know. I've always believed that talent is definitely something you have to be born with, or you have to already have at least a little bit of talent, or but that's not to say that, at the same time, I do also believe that it's when it comes to writing music, recording music, that whole thing, that whole aspect of music is vastly different now than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago. So, but anyways, getting back to Slipknot. So yeah, the first album is definitely one of my favorites. And then I like their second album, because I remember when I was still in high school, it seemed like almost all of my friends, well, all of my metalhead friends, really liked the first album. But then by the time the second album came out, then they were all against them, and they all said like Slipknot sucks, and I don't know why, but to me, I kind of feel like their second album has a heavier sound than the first album. Because on the second album, like, there's less melody. There's still some melody, but less of it, and less rapping too. Because like on the first album, the singer Corey Taylor, he did a lot of rapping, and which that kind of like pushed them into being known as a nu metal band, rather than heavy metal band. And then of course, by the time the third album came out, I liked that even more. Not as much as their second album, but still, or I guess I liked the production quality of it more than their first 2 albums. And then after that, of course, the fourth album, I didn't really like it that much, but then I kind of went through this period where I stopped listening to them for a while, and so yeah, now I don't know if they're currently. Last time I read some kind of interview where some of the members said that they've been writing, recording new stuff, and so yeah, I don't know I think it's possible that they might have a new album out by next year. So, because it doesn't really seem like they'll have anything new this year. So, yeah. So yeah, I mean, you know, as far as some of my favorite songs go, I mean, like I like from the first album, "Sick" and "Wait and Bleed." There's a one called Eeyore, yeah, which is kind of like a bonus track. And on their second album, I pretty much like every song on their second album. The Heretic anthem, I really like that. I like in the chorus, Corey Taylor repeats something along the lines of, "If you're 555, then I'm 666. What's it like to be a heretic?" And yeah, I know, I've always liked that one. And there's another song called "People Equals Shit." And that's another thing too. I've always liked Corey Taylor's lyrics. Like, you know, I like that he's never been afraid to be truthful and honest, and he's never been afraid to show raw emotion. And I've always liked that when it comes to lyrics, you know, especially lyrics from a metal band, from a metal vocalist and songwriter. Because I figure, you know, if you're not going to tell the truth in a song, you know, where you're allowed to express yourself, you know, if you're not going to be honest, then why even bother, you know, writing that song to begin with? That's my take on it. So yeah, you know, and of course, if you're one of the few people who have yet to hear anything by Slipknot, I will provide links to where you can check that out. Also, too, I'm going to provide a link to, because there's a pretty cool video of them the first time they performed at Ozzfest. I want to say it was like in the late 90s. And I don't know, to me that's always stood out as like one of their best performances. Because I guess it was pretty much like the first time they performed in front of thousands and thousands of people. So, and you know, it was way before they started. I guess it was like they had just begun to tour in support of their first album. But yeah, it's a very energetic performance, and you'll be able to see what I mean. And you know, and also too, I wanted to say I like their guitar players, Mick Thompson. He's an awesome guitar player. I mean, just really great, really awesome lead guitarist too. I mean, for a while, Slipknot's music didn't have any guitar solos, but eventually they worked them in there, and it's kind of like, you know, I guess in a way, Mick Thompson, you know, he kind of said, you know, well, fuck that, I'm gonna play guitar solos, and whether anybody likes them or not. And same thing for their other guitar player, Jim Root. He's also an awesome, well-rounded metal guitar player, and he plays guitar solos too. But I guess his style tends to lean a little more towards like melodic stuff, blues-based stuff. Yeah. For a while, Jim Root was playing guitar in Stone Sour, which is Corey Taylor's other band, but he, I guess, quit due to creative differences or something like that. And then, of course, their original bass player, Paul Gray, unfortunately, he passed away, I want to say sometime in 2013 or 2014. Yeah, rest in peace, Paul Gray. I believe it was due to some kind of overdose, something like that. Yeah, and then, of course, you know, the other members, like, there's a guy, Sean something. He's the one who wears a clown mask. He's one of the percussionists. And he's also, I think, one of the founding members of the band. And then there's the other guy. His name escapes me. But he wears a mask that has this long, really long nose on it. It also looks like some kind of like, I don't know, weird, like, erotic mask or something, like modified, what's the word, like, sadomasochist thing, or, I don't know, I mean, that's part of their image, you know, they're weird and creepy and a little scary, but they pull it off, you know, they've been doing it for so long now, so, hey, I figure, you know, I see no reason why they shouldn't keep going, so, yeah. So that'll do it. Let me know if you happen to like Slipknot too, listen to them as well. Let me know what some of your favorite songs are, so, yeah. That'll do it for this week's Music Monday. As always, thanks for watching and listening. And don't forget, keep it real, keep on rocking, and peace.